Good afternoon for those that find some time to join me today on a quick short stream. And like the title says, I'm testing different Airbuses, different flight sim platforms with regards to the fly-by-wire system and also with regards to the MOZA force feedback flight stick. I'm getting a lot of questions from our viewers. Hey Mark, only 3 hours then? No, I'm going to try to keep it to an hour 30. Weather is beautiful, it's warm outside. I want to go cycling later, so I think it'll be enough time to cover the basics. Also, we'll talk about the official kind of operating manual quotes with regards to the flare mode, so the flare behavior of the A320 series. So not only the classics and 390 and classics, 320, including Neos and including the A321 Neo, which does have a different flare mode behavior. Lilo, I did read your post regarding the big Phoenix update, which is being prepared right now, and I know that they will change some things regarding the fly-by-wire system. So I will make another video once the update is out. So this is the current state for the 31st of May in 2025, and there has been some updates as well regarding X-Plane12. But we'll see how it goes. Hello Nico, Hasso, hello, and let me say hello to Adiole as well. Crapland and Gate, hello to you. Nice of you to join. And NW Racing, hello to you. Right, let me just quickly then show you off the bat a few things I noticed messing about with the TOLIS. So we are in the TOLIS 320 Neo right now, and if I go switch off the flight directors real quickly and bird on. Let me just pop up the screen here. So, how does the fly-by-wire system of 320 work? Well, it is a full envelope protection system, meaning that the pilot in manual flight gives commands through the stick and the rudder pedals to the flight control computers, which then look at the deflection, the amount of deflection being done by the stick, and then process that into either a roll rate in the roll axis or a G-load command in the pitch axis. So the normal state, if I let go, let me just get the flight path vector onto the horizon so that we don't climb, don't descend, right? So letting go of the stick right now. So right now I'm commanding a 1G flight path. Right, so 1 time the Earth's gravity, 1G flight path, and I'm commanding a 0 roll rate. Now we have a bank angle of about 10 degrees, yes, but the stick is in neutral, so it's commanding a 0 roll rate command. Hence, the aircraft, what it does, it maintains the 1G flight path, and it maintains, or should maintain, the bank angle, because it's saying the roll rate should be 0. Now, I am getting a little bit of roll, maybe some inaccuracies here regarding the inputs. I'm not sure if that's due to the fact that, because I have set some dead zones. Well, anyways, that's beside the point right now. So, again, roll rate command in the roll axis. So if I deflect by a certain degree, it's telling the computers to roll with, I don't know, 10 degrees, 5 degrees per second, whatever, right? So the more I deflect, the higher the roll rate command. If I want to climb, I'll pull back on the stick. It commands a, let's say, a 1.1 G flight path. As long as I pull back, it maintains that 1.1 G flight path with that stick input, and the aircraft increases the pitch. Same if I pitch down, certain pitch degree down commands a certain G load, in this case 0.9 Gs, let's say. Now one thing I criticized here in the toll is, for example, if I command a roll rate and I let go of the stick, you see how it lags? Stick neutral, and it still lags, meaning the aircraft rolls a little bit longer after I put the stick to neutral. Now, this behavior is in part correct because, as you can imagine, if you look at the aircraft and you have a lot of mass regarding the wings, so you have a certain wingspan and you have fuel in the tanks creating a lot of weight. So when you roll the aircraft, so it's in a motion, so with its inertia, it's continuing to roll, and the moment I put the stick to neutral, it takes some time for the signals of the stick getting into the flight control computers, being processed, and then those signals from the flight control computers being sent to the ailerons and the spoilers. It does take a little bit of a time. Split seconds, I don't know, half a second, you name it. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know exactly how long it takes. But that's the reason why the aircraft doesn't stop rolling instantly when you put the stick to neutral. There will be a little bit of a time lag before the aircraft stops rolling. Now, you can see the toll is rolls for quite some time, and that's, to my opinion, too long. That is too much. Later in the Phoenix, we'll see what the Phoenix does, and to my experience, the Phoenix stops instantly, which is also incorrect. Again, because the inertia will force the roll to continue for a certain amount of time until the flight control computers then put some controls into the ailerons and the spoilers if necessary to stop the roll. But again, it takes some time. It doesn't happen instantly. Okay? A challenge for the pilots is in manual flight, in windy conditions, is to, let me just configure the aircraft for landing. Let me get manual thrust here as well. It's important for the pilot to understand that when he's flying, let's say you're flying on the ILS, so you've got the localizer and glide slope centered. He's nice, stable, under center rate on the ILS. Now, if there's a wind gust lifting one of the wings ever so slightly up, what happens? Well, the flight control computer will notice that the aircraft is rolling. Well, if the stick is in neutral, the flight control computers will say, hang on, the pilot wants roll rate 0. So without any stick inputs, the flight control computers will actually configure the ailerons and spoilers in such a manner to prevent that wind gust to lift and roll the aircraft. And then again, there's a slight time delay. It doesn't happen instantly. There's a time delay. And so the pilot has to be careful not to fight the flight control computers. So what I've been taught when I was learning to fly the Airbus is let the flight control computers do their job. Right? So don't over control the aircraft. Right? Let the flight control computers do their work.
2,500.
And then, if necessary, correct for the flight path. Yeah, Papa Charlie. So the thing, in my opinion, with X-Plane right now, X-Plane12, is that the influences on the aircraft, aerodynamic influences, is too big, yes. And if you talk to some aircraft developers, they will give you quite interesting insight in what they have to do to get the aircraft behavior somewhat realistic. Right, I'm going to show you another very neat trick. Are we on to it, right? So I'm going to show you a little neat trick Mark Manintly, my moderator, gave me. I knew that there was something with situations savings, but I didn't realize it actually works that well. So let me just show you. So I'm going to go onto the localizer, onto the flight slope. Everything's configured for landing. Let's go orbit medium. Landing checklist is showing as complete. So what I want to do is I'm going to get the aircraft nice and stable here, and we have on the ground 280 at 8, it says on the current weather. So let me get the aircraft nicely configured here. Bit crosswind, 16 knots right now. And once I have everything set, including the speed, at about 1,000 feet, I'm going to make a snapshot of that state. And that way I can come back to that state in a very quick manner and then practice landings. Here it is, which is really good. 1,000 is checked. So having difficulty getting onto the localizer with that crosswind. So there we go. So now we're on speed, pretty much on localizer. Let me get the track towards the runway here. There we go. And I'm going to pause the sim here, and then we'll go into the TOLIS simulation control system, go to situations, and then I am going to save San Francisco 28 right. And then save the situation. All right, so let's do the landing. So the wind should be changing to the front here. And again, the aircraft per se, the flight control computers, will keep the aircraft nice and stable. Okay, so there's no need to really stir the pot, as we say. Hey, Lilitan. So let the flight control computers do the work. If there's any disturbance that you need to correct, well, then just do a correction. Put everything back to neutral. See what the aircraft does. Right. Now, as we get into the flare, yeah, it is much quicker than a quick pattern, yeah. So let me get to the point where we are at about 50 feet. And I'm going to talk about how important this snapshot is at 50 feet. All right. So why is this point important? Well, if you look at the way the flare mode behaves. So I know a lot of you guys know this already, but for those that don't know yet, when the aircraft passes 50 feet radio altimeter, where we are right now, okay, the trimmable horizontal stabilizer is frozen. As you know, in normal law and alternate law, the aircraft stabilizer is trimmed automatically. You do not have to trim. There's no trim switch for you here to trim the horizontal stabilizer through the flight control system. There is, of course, the trim wheel here that it could move in direct law, but in alternate law and in normal law, you do not touch the trim wheel unless you're on the ground and set the trim for takeoff. Otherwise, you don't touch that. That is automatic, okay? So at 50 feet, the trimmable horizontal stabilizer is frozen and the normal flight mode changes to flare mode as the aircraft descends to land. Flare mode is essentially a direct stick to elevator relationship, however, with some dampening provided by load factor and the pitch rate feedbacks. So there is a different feel to the aircraft when you pass 50 feet. You don't really notice that much. But what you do notice is that the system memorizes the aircraft attitude at 50 feet, right? So that's why it's really, really important that at 50 feet, you are at your normal pitch attitude. If you start doing some really wild corrections at 70 feet and you have a kind of a non-standard pitch attitude at 50 feet where the snapshot happens, you're obviously going to get a wrong starting point, which makes the whole flare and the landing much more challenging suddenly. So I can't stress this enough, and this has been told to me when I was training on the A320, is make sure at 50 feet you are as close as possible to the standard values regarding speed, pitch, and power. Really, really, really important. So what happens thereafter? So as the aircraft then descends through 30 feet RA, the system begins to reduce the pitch attitude to -2 degrees nose down over a period of 8 seconds. It's a little bit misleading. It doesn't mean the pitch is going to be put to -2 degrees. So to my understanding, it's always been that the pitch that you currently have, so right now, let's say we have about 4 degrees, the aircraft would aim for a 2-degree pitch up over 8 seconds. Right? So if you were at 2-degree pitch, the aircraft would then aim for a 0-degree pitch over 8 seconds. Now, what effect does it have? It means that as the elevators, not the horizontal stabilizer, the elevators at the rear of the aircraft. Let me just show you that. Right? So not that stabilizer wing at the end here, not that is moved anymore, just the elevators are moved for that 2-degree pitch down change, right? And the flight control computers have that as a program. They will do that for you. And consequently, what you have to do is you have to get a gentle nose up action by the pilot, so by the stick. Right, and you have to sometimes hold that back pressure. It's something you have to learn. And then through time, you get your muscle memory so that you know how much you have to pull back on the stick and modulate and maybe hold the back pressure a bit. And again, it's down to practice to nail it, okay? And so this is there to simulate the conventional aircraft behavior, like on a 737, let's say, right? Where as you reduce the thrust and the airspeed reduces, the aircraft gets nose down heavy. So you have to naturally pull back to keep the nose from dropping. So that's the whole idea about the flare mode and the system behavior that it has, okay? In the 321 Neo flare, there is a little bit different of a behavior. So when passing 100 feet rate altimeter, the horizontal stabilizer is frozen and the normal flight control mode changes to flare mode as the aircraft descends to land. The flare mode is also here a direct stick to elevator law without auto trim. However, some dampening provided by load factor and pitch rate feedback. And so the flare law provides full elevator authority. And I can tell you from experience that the 321 Neo is not the easiest aircraft to land, because I always felt the aircraft was behaving differently in all kinds of different situations. So it was much more difficult to get a repetitive kind of a nice flare behavior in the 321 Neo. It was more a trial error every time, right? Let's see. Jensi, hello. Vector, hello. And Holger says infrastructure home is not capable of supporting the MOZA. Yeah, that's what I meant with it's a heavy unit. I need some good mounting for that. So if you encounter a gust at 50 feet RA, it might lead to wrong flare sensation due to different... Well, yeah, so let me show you here, for example, can I get the lift vector? So there we go. So X-Plane quite nicely shows you the lift forces. All right, so different positions on the wing, creating different lift vectors. And you can see on the trim, the horizontal stabilizer at the back here as well, creates downforce, right, to keep the aircraft in an equilibrium. Because you have your center of gravity, you have your lift vector upwards, right, and the center of gravity is ahead of the lift vector, meaning if you didn't have a trimmable horizontal stabilizer, or a horizontal stabilizer at the end, creating a downlift, the aircraft would flip over forwards all the time, right? So that's why you need that fin at the back, the horizontal stabilizer, to create a downward force to get this into equilibrium. Let me cover this. So you can see right now we are in a little bit of a crab angle because the wind is a little bit from the right, not much. So there is going to be another factor coming into play, which I'll talk about once we have a bit more crosswind. For now, let me just see what questions do we have. So it's only about the trim horizontal THS position or the change in rate. Yeah. So again, to my understanding, it reduces the pitch attitude by 2 degrees over 8 seconds. Right. So that's my understanding. Would you say that the flare mode does successfully replicate the feel? It's somewhat artificial. It is definitely artificial. However, I can imagine the other way around. So let's say you would not have this flare law. Imagine trying to land an Airbus. You would do nose up pitch input. The aircraft would lift the nose. Then you would have to put the stick to neutral. Then watch what the aircraft does. And then as the speed decays, the flight control computers will maintain a 1G flight path, meaning the aircraft would just fly level flight. It would fly level flight, but the pitch would increase all the time. Why? Because as the speed decays, to create more lift, you have to increase the pitch. So I think it's a good idea to have a nose down pitch input, which kind of, forces the pitch down and gets the aircraft onto the runway. I think it would be really weird if it didn't have that.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 10, retard.
Okay, so you can see that, contrary to what I previously was talking about here in the 320 Neo, that as you reduce the thrust, the nose drops. Right now, I don't feel that anymore. I have to admit. I don't feel that anymore. I don't know what happened. However, there's one situation, and we'll come to that when we add some crosswind in a minute. Because then something changes.
500.
But in this case, the rate's also the same. Yeah. So what is being taken is a snapshot of the current pitch attitude at 50 feet. And from that, there's a 2 degree pitch down input over 8 seconds. So I'm going to give you a really weird kind of... so let's say I'm getting a bit unstable here, right? So I'm doing all kinds of things with the stick and speed and... so...
100.
So now I'm kind of descending too fast. Now at 50 feet I'm pitching up. So now it's taking this reference and it's pitching the nose down by 2 degrees. But the pitch is still way too high.
20. Retard. 10. Retard. Retard.
And so pilots rely a lot on visual cues. So I can tell you from experience that if you come into landing and something's really off with the picture, let's say because the pitch is a lot higher than what normally is, or you know, the crab angle is a lot more than what you usually have, then you're outside of your normal kind of visual reference, and that again, it just makes the landing itself, the flare, a lot more difficult. Hey, brothers. Yeah, I don't. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to overcomplicate things. So this is just a bit of theory, background theory, for you guys to. The doorbell rang. I think that's the. So again, it's very, very important. Try to get into the correct state regarding pitch, power at 50 feet.
50. 40.
And then just do your normal
30. 20. Retard.
Flare. I can see the nose dropping, pulling back, holding that, holding it. Nice.
Retard.
So contrary to what I've been moaning about with the 320 Neo TOLIS, I don't know if anything changed lately regarding X-Plane12 or the TOLIS. I do not know. All I can say is that, or maybe it's because of the MOZA flight stick. I don't know exactly why, but again, I have to correct my comments from, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So for me, at the moment, the 320 Neo
500.
with headwind component feels nice.
400.
It does feel very, very nice. It feels very realistic. I know, so Hayden, this is live, yeah. So if you have any questions, Hayden, hello to you. Feel free to ask.
200. 100.
So I've got my aim point here, and now I'm transitioning my viewpoint to the end of the runway.
50. 40. 30.
Reduce the thrust.
20. Retard.
Here comes the nose down.
Retard. 10. Retard. 5. Retard. 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 Retard.
Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm going to add a crosswind component. Right, so let me just pause that, and then I can answer some questions. Turk and US, I'm going to test FS Labs 2024. Yes, if the Neo comes out, sure. No, so Avianitor, the flare mode is different on different Airbus models. Oh yeah, and there was a question I got, I think yesterday on my live stream, or after my live stream. So guys, there was a comment from someone saying that the A350 for them feels sluggish or feels too laggy.
Where complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium
flight
entertainment will be served. Thank you.
Hey Azan, how do you do? Thanks so much, Azan. 61 months.
It's been a while since I've stopped in.
Oh,
Hope
yes.
everything is well and you're enjoying the new hardware.
I am indeed, Azan. Thank you so much for the 61. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for your support. Greetings. So imagine an A350 now with a much bigger wingspan, a much bigger mass, and also the mass regarding the fuel in the wings itself, okay? So we're talking about inertia, right? We're talking about a physical property that a certain object with a certain mass going on a certain path will remain on that path unless an external force is acting on it to change that path. Now, the inertia means as the force is acting on it, it has to accelerate accelerate initially that mass to get it to move. So it's logical that if you have a higher mass, i.e. a longer wingspan with more weight in it, it takes a lot more force to move that, i.e. to get the aircraft to roll, but also there will be more time delay unless you make the flight controls a lot bigger to be able to roll faster. But let me ask you this. So again, we're commanding a roll rate, okay? So by design, the A350 already has bigger flight controls, bigger ailerons, bigger spoilers, etc., to be able to move the aircraft in the roll axis to provide that commanded roll rate. But again, it's going to feel to you that it takes longer to get to that roll rate because of the inertia, because of the weight of the wings, etc. Right? So naturally, a bigger aircraft has a little more lag in it, right? That also means that certain influences, wind influences, affect smaller aircraft to a larger degree compared to bigger aircraft. Yes, bigger aircraft have bigger rudder area, bigger wing area, but that's also then combined with more weight. So naturally, the aircraft, a larger aircraft, feels more stable, right? Because of that inertia. My settings, I can show you my settings real quickly, graphics. So this is what I'm doing right now. So I'm not sure, I do mess about with the settings from time to time, guys. So, X-Plane12 right now, they're changing a lot of things as they bring up more and more beta versions. So this is what I'm doing right now with it. Take a snapshot if you like, and then... Right, cool. So let me now do the following. Let me add more crosswind, okay? And now I'm going to put 25 knots crosswind. So that is in about... Yeah, let me move that up a bit. And then let me put this... yeah, so let me put this... Let me delete those... hold on, how do I delete? Well, let me do a few clouds. Here we go. All right, so let then add a wind layer. Add wind layer.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and I'm going to put this to
Captain Black Box
about 90 degrees of crosswind.
New subscribers should now pick up their pass to first class. Thank you.
A wave direction, hang on, wind direction. What's wind? Wind. There we go, wind. Here we go. So, hey, Carter and boys, thank you much for the Twitch Prime. Welcome to the community. That's really nice of you. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for that. Welcome. Yeah, so Garen, we'll get to the Phoenix in a couple of minutes. So I'm planning to just demonstrate you now the crosswind and to talk about some physics regarding crosswind. And then we're going to go into the Phoenix as well. No worries. Because we are comparing different Airbuses. So let me put this at 50 feet mean sea level. And I'm going to put this to 25 knots without any gusts, okay? Then I'm going to add another wind layer here just to make sure we match that that weather. So we have that here as well. Okay, done. Apply the changes. So now we should be getting...
Wind shear.
Wind shear, okay. Well, I'm not going to do the procedure.
Sink rate.
Let me just...
Glide slow.
that was because that... No, hang on. Oh, idiot. That's me, sorry. The thing is, I was practicing 1.9 landings all the time. That's why I've got the wind direction wrong. Of course, 090 is tailwind, isn't it? Duh. Let me quickly change that. So let me go put this to northerly wind. There we go. And this one also northerly wind. All right, so here we go. Let me just get the aircraft back into the position here. There we go. So now we have that wind coming in. So I'm going to talk about the physics regarding crosswind, okay? Get the aircraft stable here. So we are currently 20 knots crosswind, it's indicating. Hey, goat friend. And
500.
And again, it is really, really, really important
400.
to get your values correct regarding the 50 feet RA. Radar set RA.
200.
The wind is dying down now. Yeah, as we get closer to the ground. Hold on.
100.
Hold on. Let me just have a look here. A few clouds. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that. I have a feeling that if I do the reload, it reloads the weather. Is that correct? So let me just have a look here. Flight configuration, customize. Let me put that there. That's good. All right, that should be fine. Hey Lee, wie geht's dir? So okay, now we got to 22 knots crosswind, 23 knots. Okay. Airbus, I'm going to get to your comment in a second. Let me just try and get the landing here done. Hey, is it called Charper? Charper? Hello to you. Right, so let me get the aircraft correctly configured here
200.
at 50 feet. All right, so hang on. 50 feet. Okay, so some more theory. So you can see we are crabbing the aircraft quite strongly now. Hey, Goldfishly. To counteract the drift caused by the crosswind. Okay. Now, if we were to touch down on a dry runway in this kind of crab angle, you can imagine it's going to put a lot of side force onto the landing gear. Now, the landing gear is very strong. Right? It can withstand some great impact forces before braking. Now, what it doesn't like sideward forces. Right? So yes, of course, to a certain limit, you're not going to damage the landing gear, but it still doesn't really like it. So pilots, right, usually want to treat their aircraft well. And so naturally, what we want to do is decrab the aircraft before landing. Now, imagine the wind coming from the side here, okay? So the wind is coming exactly across, and we've got nose pointed somewhat into the wind. So currently we have a net airflow, right, from the side and mostly from the front, obviously, but there's going to be some airflow from the side because of that wind, okay, giving us a total airflow over the wings. Now, if we decrab the aircraft quickly, right, so we move the aircraft nose to the left, what happens to the relative wind flow at that moment with that crosswind? It's going to decrease very quickly by, let's say, 5, 6, 7 knots, depending on how much wind speed we have, right? So if we are right on speed, or let's say we're slightly below the approach speed here, going towards VLS, then suddenly losing about 5 to 6 knots of wind, so airflow over the wings, it's going to decrease lift quickly, right? Now, we're not going to be able to change the pitch attitude that quickly to counteract that loss of lift. And hence, what I feel very often here is that in X-Plane12, if I decrab the aircraft, the descent rate increases very quickly because of the fact that we're decrabbing the aircraft and losing lift that way. Hey, Ghost. Yeah, sorry, the command is not correct. So listen, read the title. You'll see that we're just doing some testing regarding the force feedback stick and the different flight behaviors of the aircraft, Airbus aircraft, across X-Plane, Microsoft 2024. That's the idea today. Enzo, hello to you. Cool. Okay, so let me just do that now. So we're going to land,
40,
decrab.
20, retard,
Ooh, and this is what I mean. Full right input. Full stick input to the right to control the aircraft. And that's just overdone. And that's what I was criticizing X-Plane still. So the aerodynamic model is overpowering the ability of the aircraft ailerons and spoilers to counteract that force from the sim. So the thing is that if you model aerodynamic behavior, so the correct behavior from the aircraft with the aircraft surfaces with the ailerons and spoilers, it cannot handle the force implied on it by X-Plane12. Right? So that's one of the big things right now that hopefully they will change, because it is just overpowering you as your ability as from pilot perspective to deal with that that force. So again, let me just do a normal landing now with a crosswind. Hold on. See, that's the thing. I have a feeling that it's already, yeah, it's taken the manually entered weather again. So let me just do that. Hold on. Let me change that again, 25 knots. There we go. Yeah, so I was commenting on the fact that here in the Neo, or the tailless aircraft, sometimes the pitch down is just too big in the flare. And what it could be, theoretically, is in these crosswind conditions. And again, as you decrab the aircraft quickly, it loses lift, which is normal. That's how the aircraft would behave in the real world. However, if the aerodynamic model is overdone in the sim itself, it's overpowering the elevator. There we go.
20, retard, 10.
Look, I have to make extreme corrections in the pitch axes and the roll axes to counteract. So, as long as the developers of X-Plane don't change that internal aerodynamic model, it's going to cause us problems. Now, I'm going to go one last time here, with 35 knots crosswind. Okay. And I can tell you that probably I can't land the aircraft. I can't land it because the flight controls aren't strong enough here to cope with that. And 35 knots is within the normal limits. So any pilot, real-world pilot, has to be able to land their aircraft at maximum crosswind values. If you don't qualify, right? If you don't manage to cope with this, you're not going to get your license and your type rating. So we've got 35 knots crosswind.
400.
And you can see how the aircraft is crabbing along. You see this? Look at that. Crazy.
300.
Right? I think, well, it depends on the airline. I think some have 38 knots and some have 35 knots, yeah. Yorkshire, thank you much for the kind words. Appreciate that. Right. Getting a bit low here. Let's correct that quickly. There we go.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Look at that. Full deflection. And I can hardly get the wings level. Right. And an aircraft, if this was a real aircraft behavior, this would not be licensed. You would not get this certified. Right? So, that's the thing. That's the criticism I have with X-Plane12 right now. I wish they would listen. I wish they would change that. Because it can't be only up to the developers to do something internally with the aircraft add-ons, kind of simulate, 5 by 5 meter big ailerons to counteract that aerodynamic force, which is too much. And now I had one more comment there. So Airbus has a different FCOM, and it's potentially says it may have a potential bigger intervention by the flare law. So it memorizes pitch attitude, and the resulting angle is the basis for the 8-second rule. So 8-second pitch rate per second. Hang on, let's assume 40 degrees at 50 feet. Okay, yeah, honestly, for my FCOM and the way I've understood that, it's not really that critical to know exactly what happens in the background. The thing is, you have to realize there's a flare mode, that it works in a certain way. So 50 feet is one critical item, meaning you should be as stable as possible at 50 feet, rate altimeter.
Hello, black box.
And oh, hang on, I just missed something. Brennel, no, Adiola, thanks for 10 bits, and Brennel, hello to you. No, Brennel, we're just doing some testing. I'm not doing a normal flight. I'm just doing some testing. Talk about the flare behavior and the aerodynamic behavior of the A320 across X-Plane and across Microsoft. I hope you're doing well, Brennel. So again, 50 feet RA is important. And then be aware, passing 33 feet RA, there is a pitch down input by the flight control system. So that you have to pull back and modulate the pitch input in the stick to flare the aircraft. Okay? Hey, Basing, yeah, I was a captain on a 320 for about 12 years, yeah. Okay, oh yeah, and one more tip, guys, one more tip. Let me just do one more approach here, one more tip. What we actually did in the real aircraft, at least in 321s. So let me just give you one tip here. So I'm going to put this back to 25. That's it. All right, that's good. So if you have very strong crosswind conditions, do the following. Add another 5 knots of wind to that. Okay? So that you approach at a higher indicated airspeed. Hey Ted, which counteracts that loss of lift as you decrab the aircraft. And I remember we did that in 321 because there is obviously more critical because the aircraft is longer. The decrab. Oh, and of course the 321 wing area is the same as on the 320. So the effect of losing lift as you decrab the aircraft in the 321 is actually larger compared to 320, right? So just by adding 5 knots of wind, approach speed.
40, 30, 20, retard, 10, retard.
Right? It just gives you it just gives you more buffer for decrabbing the aircraft. Right. Good. So that was X-Plane12 and the TOLIS, okay? And I think the point came across there quite nicely. Let me now go into Microsoft 2024 with the Phoenix, first of all. Yeah, so to my knowledge, Sandman, the wings are exactly the same, 320, 390, 321. The difference is the flap system on 321. So when you extend the flaps, it does have a bit of a different overall surface area on the 321 compared to the 390, 320. But overall, the whole wing section itself, if the wings are retracted, then the wings should be exactly the same. Yeah, okay, so correct. There's a comment there that there was a comment that if you decrab the aircraft, what happens is obviously the wing, one wing comes forward and the other one goes backwards. And so the wing that comes forward will also create more lift suddenly than the wing that goes back. So because of that decrab, yes, you have to already be ready to input some aileron. However, in the 320, the flight control system should do that for you. The question is how quick is it? Because it keeps roll rate 0, remember? So when you decrab the aircraft, one wing comes forward, gets more lift, and the aircraft starts rolling because of that. The flight control computer should interact and intervene to keep the aircraft from rolling. However, because there's a time delay from all the processing and then deflection of the surfaces, the aircraft will have a little bit roll nonetheless. So pilots will learn to anticipate that as well, in the Airbus as well. Yeah, correct. Welsh pilot, hello. Do you flare by directly pulling back on the stick using your arm? Or no, it's just the wing, the wrists. So normally what happens is that your arms rest on a armrest. So I have an armrest here as well. There. Right. So my arm rests on that armrest. And this is actually in line then with the flight stick bracket, if you like, on the bottom there, right? So everything's nicely resting, and all I'm moving the wrist. That's all I'm moving. I'm not moving the whole hand. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just moving the wrist. Yeah. Because if you start moving the hand or the whole arm, it becomes a lot more unstable. And I honestly, okay, you think the Nazebo, it feels more controllable? I would have to update the Zebo. I don't have that updated just yet, I'm afraid. Now, I've already installed the the TOLIS, not the TOLIS, the iniBuilds Neo. We'll test that as well, because somebody was asking. But for now, let me just go into the Phoenix 320 CFM. And then we'll go again to San Francisco. Runway 28 initially. And then for the crosswind, we're going to land on 19. Well, actually, I can change the wind here as well, can't I? Yeah. Hasso, to my knowledge, yes. To my knowledge, as far as maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But to my knowledge, my infos that I have through the FCOM, the 320 on Neo does not have that 2-degree pitch down program.
San Francisco Tower, Airbus Delta, Alpha Bravo Papa, Delta ready at runway 28 right, departing straight out.
Good question, Ghost. I honestly, I don't know why. I don't know why the 321 Neo doesn't have the flare law. Brendan, let me just get the real world weather here quickly. I'll show you. So let's go weather request. Now let me use FSI panel to move the aircraft, but I first need to load the aircraft before I do that. So let's do mass and balance. Let's get another like 140 passengers, fuel about 3.5 tons or something. Apply, load the aircraft, instant. So that has been loaded. And then let me move the aircraft. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So now the approach is being set up. Yeah, so we have 2991 is set. JetGPT says it's because the aerodynamics in the Neo 320 is different. Well, yeah, that's a very kind of a broad kind of comment, isn't it? I mean, of course, the aerodynamics are different in the 320 on Neo, but I mean, you could adapt for that with a with a software program. So I'm not sure, how to take that kind of comment, right? So the aircraft should be configured at any moment.
1,000.
So we have 12 degrees, and we have 280 at 7. So I'm just waiting for the setup to be finished, and then I'll take over manually. Come on. So it's still working. I'm not sure what it's working. Oh, there we go. So now hold for 3 seconds. Okay, so now we are manual flight. Same thing now is I'll demonstrate to you what I mean with the way the fly-by-wire system works here in the Phoenix. So if you look at the bank attitude here, okay? So stick input, I let go, it stops pretty much instant. Right, so it stops, you see? Let go to stick, it stops. There's no lag whatsoever. Right, so that's what I then criticize here in the Phoenix right now. So contrary to the TOLIS, which is overdoing the lag and the bank angle movement, the Phoenix stops too quickly with the roll. So it feels like digital flying, right? Input, stop, stop, right? So the best thing really would be a mixture between the two, between the TOLIS and the Phoenix. Now, Lilo said here that the next update, the big Phoenix update, should be coming out soon, is going to change that behavior. And so once the Phoenix update is out, I'll test again to see if that behavior has increased. So this one thing I'm not really a fan of here in the Phoenix. It's just too digital in its movement, right? And it has to do, in my opinion, it has to do with the fact that Microsoft Flight Sim is just missing inertia simulation. So while X-Plane12 does a bit too much with the fluid model and the aerodynamic model, here it's just missing externally. Right? So in other words, the moment that the aircraft puts the flight control surfaces to 0 or neutral, let's say a neutral, the aircraft just stops responding and it keeps whatever, you know, pitch and bank it had at that moment. Right. So, yeah, X-Plane and Microsoft have different, you know, different aerodynamic models. So the basic model is different, but nothing is perfect. Right, so I can only hope that both sims improve on that, and that would actually help developers, aircraft developers, to get their models, their aircraft models,
2,000.
you know, correct, in a lot easier kind of method. Right, so Avianitor, you did a 7-hour flight with a TOLIS 340. And when I'm landing, I pitched up like I do in the Zebo, and I almost tail strike. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing with these big aircraft. You just have to be aware of that. You have to be careful. The weights, they were 55.2, 32.3. Okay, so let's land the aircraft, see how this one behaves in the flare. flare mode. Yeah, the Turkish 321 tail strike. Yeah, that did look bad. But I mean, I've seen many different airlines with 21 tail strikes. So I'm lucky that I never had a tail strike ever in any aircraft. But I can understand how quickly it can happen. So I'm not saying it's down to pilot skills. No, if you just hit a bad day with bad wind conditions and hard landing, maybe, yeah, you could be tail striking really quickly, and that it can happen to the best of pilots. That's what I'm saying. Is the bank angle behavior supposed to be the same in Boeing too? No. So, well, the thing is this, so Ali, Boeing, if you say Boeing, you have to realize that a 737 Boeing has a different flight control system than a 777 or 787.
300.
Yeah, the wind has shifted. Now, I'm going to go with the power piece, not the glide slope, as always.
Complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium flight entertainment will be served.
So very little wind here. Ideal conditions.
Hi,
Hey, Chris
Black
Clark.
Box. Hope
Hey.
you're well and enjoying the nice weather.
I am
Nice
indeed.
to see stream during the day. Smile.
50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 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 Retard.
Oh, that I have not activated that myself. So this is, for some reason, with the last update, this has put itself on again automatically. I hate that. Why does it do that? Chris, thank you much for the 76 months. Yesterday I was thinking about you, Chris. I thought, I was wondering how you are, how you're doing. I hope you're doing well. And Chris, can you enjoy the weather, hopefully? Or do you have to work a lot? This is Microsoft 2024, by the way, not 20. I did not request the progressive taxi. No, hang on. Okay, let me try one more thing here. Let me try the iniBuilds 320. So let's go settings real quickly. Where was that? Assistance, right? Assistance. No, it's, where is it? Heck, where is the where's taxi ribbon? Yeah, thanks. Where do I find it? What? Hang on. Taxi ribbon? Oh yeah, okay, found it. Okay, thanks. I missed that. Okay, thank you so much. All right, cool. So free flight, let's go with the iniBuilds. Chris Clark says, been out for lunch. Nice. Cool. With Anya. Nice. Oh, no. Okay, Chris. Yeah, sorry to hear that you got redundant. But any chances of finding a new job soon? I think yeah, because he said your job is there's not many professionals in your job, right? So. Okay, so let's take the iniBuilds 320. Let's do that again here in San Francisco. Mavericks, your update is getting stuck all the time. Oh, that was with 2020. Okay. Yeah, I've much. I'm not sure what the issue is that you have. We're a flight sim community here, so I'm not sure what your comments have to do with flight simming. I wouldn't go with flight factor, guys. Flight factor 320, flight factor 777 is fine, but flight factor 320, I wouldn't touch that at the moment. That needs some serious updating. First time I'm flying the iniBuilds 320 here. I've not been in here. Let's see how it behaves. Hey Piper, gute. Alright, so let's load some stuff here. Let's go some passengers, 140, 150 is fine. Fuel. We'll go back down to 4 tons. Apply load. Instant. So 55.7 and 28.6. I would love to initialize the weights. Why can't I put the weights in here? Oh, perfect. Good call. Good call. Fuel predictions. So we got 55.7 with CG 28.3. 20.6, so 28.6. Yeah, that is important. Cool. Okay, so we've done that. Let me quickly get departure to 8 right. Non-insert. And then performance. We'll do 1 up 1. 55. Just gonna enter some winds. It doesn't really some speeds. It doesn't matter if they are inaccurate. So 144. There we go. Yeah. The rest doesn't really matter that much. So Manflex 55 as runway. Oh, and let's put flaps on. Hey Flurkle, thank you for the 16 months. Hello to you.
Subscriber experience. Could new subscribers please make your way to the first class cabin, where complimentary drinks, snacks.
iniBuilds aircraft need a lot of VRAM right now. Okay.
Thank you.
We want rotate. Right gear up. There you go. And Flurkle, once again, thank you so much for the 16. Hope you're doing well. Much appreciated. Okay, so let's have a look here. Flight director off, bird on. And let's climb up here. Let's accelerate. And the same thing. So I'm going to apply some bank angle input, then let go of the stick. And then we'll see how long it rolls. So big motion, a little bit of lag. So let's do it this way around again. Let go. Yeah, it seems to be a bit better than the Phoenix, if I'm honest. So there's a little bit of lag, but not much. Well, a tad more than the Phoenix, I would say. So that will be okay, in my opinion. Although it could use a touch more lag. Just a tad more. Right, so questions were, with the MOZA stick force feedback, is it really needed since the Airbus has fly-by-wire, which technically should have no feedback? Well, okay, so you are correct that the term force feedback in this regard is a bit wrong, because it implies that forces on the stick would change with different speeds, for example, like on the 737, let's say, or Cessna or something. Although the 737 is wrong because that has a synthetical field system to it. But let's say a Cessna 172, if you go faster, you will have more forces on the flight controls that you would feel. Okay. So yes, you are correct. The 320 does not change its force on the stick with changing airspeed. Okay, so what is the advantage of using a force feedback stick like the MOZA with an add-on like Airbus? Well, let me show you. What you can do is change all kinds of variables like spring force, dampening force, inertia, friction forces. You can also have adaptive centering compensation. Now this is interesting because the real Airbus stick is regarding the dampening, so regarding the force required near the center is less than the force you have when you get more to the extremes of the stick range. And that is done so that you can easily control the aircraft with very little input or not much force. However, if you really want to consciously get a large roll rate or a large pitch change, you would have to deflect the stick a lot further. However, the force to do so gets bigger. Right, so that dampening is something you can simulate with the MOZA stick. Is it absolutely necessary? No. Okay, so I was using the Warthog Thrustmaster stick, which has a constant friction or constant dampening across all the ranges. But to me, that always felt good enough, right? So that's why I've had the MOZA stick for quite some time now. I've got it now for like 8 months or something, and I've only been using it with DCS because I always said, well, I'm happy with the Warthog and use that with the Airbus models, and not having to mount this 8 kilogram base, right? So the base down here, that's 8 kilograms. And you have to be able to mount that. So I've mounted that easily now to my MTS Monstertech rig. But of course, not everyone has that option, right? So that's why I didn't really install the stick for the Airbus flying up to like a week ago. Okay. But I have to say, having this now with the Airbus add-ons is actually very nice because of the fact that you can do that adaptive centering compensation. And this option has only been in like with the last update of the software here. So that's actually fairly new. Lorenzo, you mean the sensitive settings in Microsoft? So here I've got 100%. So let me show you. Oh, hang on, not this. let me go get the... There we go. So I got a bit of dead zone, 0.02, but the rest is linear. So the pitch and the roll axis is completely linear. Right? But I have tweaked that through the MOZA. Yeah, Vanil, pleasure. Thanks for the question. How does it behave in the FS Labs? I have to test the FS Labs with it. The thing is, the FS Labs has the same behavior in the roll axis as the Phoenix has. So also there, it stops, in my opinion, too quickly. So it is missing that inertia kind of feeling. No, Sky, no. So the FS project, this just fits onto the base of the MOZA. There's nothing, there's no adapter needed or anything like that. No. So all of the Warthog sticks fit on the MOZA base, but the Whirlpool I think doesn't. That's the important thing. The Whirlpool sticks do not work with the MOZA right now, unless you have like an adapter. Piper, hello. As a young engineer, I did mass inertia simulation in the automotive industry to simulate inertia or just the characteristics of the stick, like damping, a complete different thing concerning the math behind it. Yeah, I'm not a programmer, so Piper, appreciate your input. I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how difficult, how complex it is to simulate inertia and the overall aerodynamic model here in the flight sims. All I can do is I can complain about how, or comment on how realistic it feels in the flight sims compared to the real aircraft. That's what I can do. Good, so let's do a landing here, see how that behaves. Oh, the fly-by-wire. Yeah, oh, I have to use that in Microsoft 2020, correct? So yeah, weird thing is though, I mean, this actually, it does feel like it has a little bit of inertia. So it does roll a little bit more, which I like. Because this is what the real aircraft, in my memory, did as well. Yeah, the CSS 737. So yesterday, Chewy was, I think, the only streamer yesterday I saw that was streaming it, the CSS 737. And he kind of rage quit during the cruise flight because FPS was so bad. He was like getting 30 FPS with frame generation on. And from what I've seen with the textures modeling, a lot of like 2D, not really 3D kind of texturing and so on. I don't know. I'm gonna wait until I get some more infos on that. Well, it's a nice yacht onto it, right? GG's.
400.
Oh, London Controller streamed it as well? Okay, interesting.
200.
You gotta stop right there. No, you're not. Plane spotting in the yacht. Cool.
100.
He got WASM crash. Oh no.
50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 10. Retard. Retard.
Nice. Not bad. I had a feeling that here, the nose down pitch input simulation, so the flare mode simulation here is not as strong as I would expect. So I had to kind of just go into the flare and then just not really continuously pull back a bit on a stick to get it to flare, but yeah. Let's see. Try Phoenix 321. Okay, I can do that. Conti flew the CSS 737 as well, and he got a glitch crash. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, and that's what I mean, right? It's just be careful with these add-ons. So it's always a good idea to wait. Not instantly buy these add-ons. Is it easy to configure in X-Plane the control bindings? Yeah. Because all you need really is the pitch and roll axes. That's all you need to set in X-Plane.
San Francisco Tower, FNX tree 50 heavy, ready for departing straight out at runway 28.
Also, there are presets you can download and share regarding all these different add-ons. So, for example, it already comes with many different presets, but usually for DCS mostly. But there are some Phoenix, for example, 320. There was one made by one of the V1 simulations community. This one here, which has already then taken account into this adaptive centering. Hey, TW simulations, yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, there's a lot of overhype going on, as I said many times, and I have gotten some heat for it. I have gotten some heat for that from some developers. But I mean, and then so the iniBuilds 350 to me was like the breaking point. I think that to me was like, yeah, they just completely overdid it with that, right? There we go. So that works. Let me just get that. Okay, so on the other side of things regarding these add-ons, on the other side, the flip side is that a lot of people, not a lot of people, let's say some people are having too high of expectations regarding, the in-depth simulation of an add-on, right? So people are super critical sometimes that it's not really 100% correct in this regard or that regard, and they kind of lose sight of just enjoying flight simming, right? If you just focus too much on inaccuracies, which don't really affect that many people, because most people don't understand too much about the in-depth system of an A320 or a 737 or whatever. And we're talking about add-ons that cost between $50 to $100, right? So to be honest, these add-ons that we have available give us an incredible amount of immersion. And for that, personally, I'm thankful, no doubt. The one thing I don't like is just overhyping and promising stuff where even the basic stuff doesn't work correctly. Right, that's when I get upset. Oh, Josh, he sold your... Josh, what was the reason you sold your MOZA? Oh, you needed the money. Okay, I understand. Yeah. All right, let's see. Does that work now? Yeah, that's the thing. You always have to connect some profile to the aircraft. And I haven't been flying 321 here yet. Thank you much for the likes and for the thumbs up. Hey, Aussie6, hello to you. Oh, Aussie68, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Hope life is good for you. Man, how many years have you been back now in Australia? 4 or 5 years now or something? Thank you, Mark, for the shout out. There we go. So now we should be able to get this thing on the road quickly. So let me go put this mass balance. Let's get the aircraft loaded to a certain degree. Fuel, apply, instant. So 65 and 25. Yeah, somebody was saying that they felt the 319, the Phoenix 319, is a bit floaty. But apparently with the big Phoenix update coming out, they did say that they went through thousands and thousands of data points, real-world recordings of stick inputs, apparently. I don't know how they got hold of that, but that's what they claimed. And then analyzed the data and then tried to match their own add-ons to that behavior. So sounds very promising. I hope we will feel the difference when it comes out. Now the real 321 does feel like a big aircraft when you fly it IRL. Oh, my battery power is getting low on the mouse. Okay, so you know, when you taxi and you fly the 321, it does feel heavy. It does feel
subscriber experience. Could new subscribers please make your
like
way
a big
to the
aircraft,
first class
and you do
cabin,
notice that.
where complimentary drinks, snacks, and premium flight entertainment will be served. Thank you.
Hey, Paylot77, thanks so much for the 12 months. That's 1 year. Ghost, see ya. Thank you much for watching, Ghost. Have a good one. Enjoy the weekend. So we're going to be getting a bit higher airspeeds on here, 321. Let's do that. Okay. Oh, and there was one more thing I need to do. Where would I be? Oh, here in the menu here. Adiol, thank you so much for the 100 bits. Much appreciated. My pleasure. Thank you so much for the support. Yeah, I enjoyed the 321 most, and flying the real aircraft for me. So let me do that. Idle reverse. Come. Idle reverse. Idle. Climb. CT. To store. Alright, let's go. Let's fly this thing. So we've got Manflex 55. Oh, hold on. What's happening with the nose wheel? Come on. Hello. Huh? What's it doing? Why is it not... Controls... Oh, rudder dampening. Do I want rudder dampening? Oh, why is it not... Hang on, let me just try that again. Let me go to it. No. Why is it pulling to the left? What on earth? Sorry. I don't know why it's pulling to the left all the time. Dashman, hello, you complained this with the Phoenix flare is the lack of weight on the pitch axis as opposed to float. It feels like sides and commands pitch rate as opposed to pitch attitude. Well, I mean, so from a real aircraft behavior standpoint, when you pull back on the stick, you command a G load, which then is translated into a certain pitch rate, right? And that is actually correct. So the Airbus will feel different to, you know, conventional aircraft. Oh, with the flare mode itself? Okay, so in the flare mode itself, okay, so yeah, there it says it has a direct stick to surface. And by initially, yeah, I didn't think it was referring to the landing. I thought that was in general. Yeah, just to make sure that I'm not interfering with the... Yeah, that's the thing. So I don't want to have that interfering. There we go. So, are there any other settings somewhere regarding the hardware? So that's all done. So let me have a look outside. Looks centered, and then the brake, or left, right. So the brakes are there. They're neutral. Ah, that feels better now. Okay, that feels good. All right, let's go. No, hang on. Now it's pulling to the left again. Same punch was high. Without STS? But that's not going to cause the issues we have right now. I think I have that normally on. Yeah, let me have a look outside, see if the nose gear is actually pointing. Guys, I'm sorry, I can't get the 321 to work, it seems. What time is it? Yeah, I gotta be heading off soon anyways. Okay, right guys, we'll leave it there. So I think we did cover a couple of things regarding the theory of the flight control laws and in the Airbus, how I think personally differences are between X-Plane12 and the TOLUS and the Phoenix. The left throttle axis bound to left brakes. I have to check that. I don't. It could be, but we'll have to check that. Yeah, so I'm intrigued to see what the Phoenix update will bring regarding the flight model changes. So definitely we'll check that once that's released. Declank, what did you hear about the update on the Lufthansa 787 incident? Where did you hear what, so that I can refer to that? Ath Herald, okay. And someone else is asking, what do you think about Airbus choosing TOLUS for parts of their training? I mean, it depends. I don't know what exactly they want to train. So they definitely looked at all add-ons available, right? And then yeah, they went with TOLUS. I don't know what their main viewpoints were on that, but I'm sure they had their reasons, right? Right, so let's have a look. So there was a 787 rejected takeoff in Hyderabad. I did hear about this. And then on May the 31st, received information that there has been some issues in the cabin prior to departure, so that the third pilot started monitoring the cabin via the camera. After being cleared for the rolling takeoff and during the lineup, an oven door in the forward galley opened and some china fell out. Okay, the engines had stabilized and the aircraft was accelerated for takeoff. One of the forward flight attendants got up to secure the oven, okay, and prevent further food falling out, but slipped on the floor, already on the floor, and fell down. The forward colleague saw the entire rack in the oven move and possibly fall onto the flight attendant on the floor, possibly causing injuries. So the other colleague got up, rushed towards the oven. This movement was noticed on the camera in the cockpit. The third pilot noticed a flight attendant on the floor and the other rushing over, obviously to help and notify the captain about the obvious emergency. Accelerated through 140 knots, the captain rejected takeoff. Okay, after coming to a stop, the captain instructed cabin crew to take attendants. It became clear that the no emergency existed, and the aircraft taxied off the runway, but brakes temperatures increased and the safety valves at 7 of the 8 tires opened, disabling the aircraft on the taxiway. And the passengers disabled. Okay, so Declan, what's your question then? So what do you think I would comment on here? So with these incidents, it's always difficult because really it's always easy to look at this from the green desk, as we say, and then criticize decisions or criticize actions. You would say, he should not have aborted the takeoff and so on. Well, no, he for some reason, whatever the underlying messages were that he got and the overall feeling that he had with this issue, he decided to abort a takeoff. Right? So to me, there's nothing to criticize here. Right? And I don't think it's right for me to say, oh, I would have done differently. Well, would I? I don't know. Would I do it differently? I don't know. Because in that moment, in the heat of the moment, who knows how you would react, right? In this case, and this is a case obviously that you don't really practice, right? So one thing I can say though is that normally you would not know about things going on in the cabin. So the thing that one pilot saw that in the camera system is obviously information that normally I don't think I would get in the flight deck, right? But maybe that's why the captain reacted the way he did. Maybe he didn't understand what's going on, and he just heard the other pilot comment about somebody lying on the floor in the galley, etc. I don't know. So it's difficult to say. Now, the only thing really that I find peculiar, but again, I can understand that from a human kind of standpoint, right? So, a flight attendant noticed something that potentially could cause some risk, right? Some safety issue, and let's say they're at taxi speed when this happened, and so he or she thought, well, I'm just quickly going to get up and close that oven door to prevent objects falling out, and then quickly sit down again. I don't know. It's one of those things which I can relate to. Personally, I don't know. I don't think I would do it. But again, that's easy to say. That's easy to say, at the green table, right? So, Clank, do you have like a special question in that regard, or? Yeah, again, I can't. I can't know. I don't know what I would have done in this regard. I'll give you another example. Yeah, so I'll give you another example. You remember I think we talked about this some time ago. So you're in the approach, okay? So you're like 1,000 feet above the airport in the approach, and one of the passengers gets up and walks to the toilet and locks themselves in the toilet. So you get a call from the flight attendant telling you a passenger has just walked into the toilet and he's still in the toilet. Would you land or would you go around? Right, it's just one of those questions. What's safer? Is it safer to land carefully, or is it safer to go around? Right, both have risks, right? So you just have to make a decision, and in the end, yeah, it's easy to comment afterwards. In hindsight, it's always easy. Code Brown, yeah. I mean, but yeah, you see the point I'm making, right? It's not easy, this job, right? And the captain, in the end, the captain is the one that makes the decision, and the captain has to take the responsibility, and that's what he did. And I'm sure that investigations that went on, he had to clarify his actions, he had to clarify his thoughts, but I don't see anything. I don't see anything there that that is inherently wrong. Yeah, Ali, the thing is this, Ali. So let's say you go around. At that very moment, when you press on the toga buttons, or you put the notches, the thrust lever into the toga notch, at that very moment, that person steps out of the toilet, and because of the acceleration, that G-force, he falls over backwards, hits his head on the galley wall somewhere, and is I don't know, has some serious injuries, and then he sues you because he went around. And then the judge will ask, well, why didn't you land? And then you have some experts claiming that if he had landed, it would have been less deceleration force compared to the acceleration force. yeah, again, it's one of those discussions, right? You just cannot say this is the right action, this is the wrong action. It's just one of those things you have to make a decision and hope you make the right decision, the right choice, and nothing happens. Hey, Wisball. Yeah, so yeah, it's unfortunately always easy afterwards, but in that heat of the moment, making that decision, split-second decision. Yeah, and again, yeah, Enzo, the thing is, so in front of a court of law, you never know exactly how the ruling will be. Even if you think it's clear, like in this case, Enzo, you're saying, well, the passenger should have remained seated because the seatbelt signs are on, right? Okay. But then again, he feels some psychological need, or sorry, physiological need, and decides to go to the toilet. That in itself may be breaking a rule, but that in itself isn't right now dangerous, right? So that in itself, in a stable flight configuration, doesn't mean he's doing something dangerous at that moment, right? It's only when you go around or you brake or whatever, you have hit turbulence, that then, you're going to have some other things. But again, the one judge may decide to rule, this and this, and then another judge would rule differently. Who knows? That's the problem with judges and court of law. No. Polaka, here's the thing. So the biggest goal that we always have is to make sure that safety is increased. So whenever you have a certain experience and you think, oh, that situation has never been thought of, what can we do in the future if this situation arises in the future again? Or how can we prevent this to happen again in the future? That's the goal, right? That's the ultimate goal. We have to make safe, aircraft and flying safer and safer and safer as possible. If there's an issue that has come through an incident, then we try to learn from that and take the positive things out of it. Yeah. Yeah, and in the end, again, the captain is the ultimate person that will have to take that responsibility. And so, yeah, and then, so knock on wood. It's one of those things, obviously, I have a huge respect for, right? So I always want to make sure that, I get to my destination safely, right? Everybody on board that I take responsibility for, reaches their destination sound and well. Okay, that's the always the top goal, top priority. And I always have been so grateful, and I still have a couple of months of flying ahead of me, but as always, been grateful that up to now, nothing ever has happened that has, had any impact health-wise and safety-wise on passengers and the crew in the aircraft. So, but these things can quickly change. So there's always a bit of a good healthy respect when you fly. Yeah, and again, I can always hope that, and I'm sure that I can't imagine any pilot really, criticizing or saying, oh, he did a wrong decision, he made a wrong decision, he should have done that and that. I mean, sure, afterwards, it's easy. In hindsight, it's always easy to point a finger, right? But, you being in that situation, having to make that call in a split second, right? That's different. Cool. Guys, thank you so much, as always. I will be back on Tuesday, unless something changes regarding my schedule, because I do have a standby reserve duty next week. But as always, I will keep you posted. Big thank you to the new members coming in. Thank you for all the resubs. And also, thank you so much for the bits that came in today. Thank you so much for support. And yeah, looking forward to the updates coming out soon, hopefully. Avimar, thank you much. Yeah, go for it. I'm always happy to do some normal or out of the normal kind of streams to talk about some aspects of aviation. Yeah. Glad that you find it interesting. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night. Take care. Have a great weekend, by the way. It's a weekend. Enjoy the weather. Good night.